Hello and welcome to the 12th episode of Thrive, where Wellbeing converges, your source for expert advice on all things mental health and wellbeing. Today we're joined by our amazing on-site consultant and counsellor, Christine Shaji. How are you going?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your history and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So I am a mental health counsellor. I've been practicing for 4 to 5 years now. My field of work started off in a bachelor's of psychology and education. I took a keen interest in the counselling field, did my master's in that, and I've worked across various fields, including, oh goodness, we're talking about social work, including universities, small universities, working with aged care population, and then those who've gone through trauma, through natural disasters, and now Converge.
Yeah, wow, brilliant. That's a lot of different things.
You've
That's
plenty
awesome.
going on.
Yeah, awesome. So I suppose what I want to talk to you about today, and hopefully we can, really enlighten a lot of people who are listening or watching, is about talk therapy.
Mhm.
So, the reasons why it's a good thing to do if you are struggling with mental health, and then sort of break down those stigmas, because obviously talking can be difficult for a lot of people. I know, obviously,
Absolutely.
when I went through my mental health journey, I didn't like talking until I actually did it.
Yeah,
So I would love to try and debunk some of those issues as well.
for
So
sure.
as we get into it, but before we get into that, obviously you've told us a little bit about your history. What actually inspired you to join the mental health industry? Was there a catalyst for it?
Actually, surprisingly not. I took a keen interest to it when we were given an opportunity in our school, actually, when I was in high school, to go and look at the field of work in a specific university. So to look at psychology, looking at, and it's funny, we were not playing, we were working with live rats, in training them in what we now know as the Pavlovian theory. Which is basically conditioning. So essentially, just getting the rat to follow the track. And out of all the girls in the group, I was third to get the rat to follow my command. And it was very interesting to see the psychology behind that, to learn the psychology behind that. And for a 15-year-old girl not knowing which way to go in life, that actually piqued my interest. I also had, I was very active in my church life at that age. So I was also teaching. So paired the two of them together and basically took an interest down that path. Um, when I was doing psychology, it got a bit intense theoretically, and I sort of thought, well, actually, the aspect when I did my placements of just connecting with someone in conversation, there's a lot of power when you build that connection, and knowing that, which leads to the question of where it sort of stems from. Basically, knowing that I have the ability to keep someone safe in conversation, knowing that they can actually talk about whatever it is they feel like, and be able to do so. I think I found that quite a beautiful feeling, and I sort of loved it. I actually loved doing that. So that's when I sort of thought, okay, psychology, I understand. I'd love to sort of get into the counselling aspect, and that's what's led me on that journey.
Yeah, brilliant. Wow. And I think obviously what you've just said is like the conversational aspect of it and whatnot. And I think it's really important as well because obviously next month, we are recording this in July, but obviously it's going to be released in August. So we're going to say next month is Are You OK Day. So
Yeah.
obviously the whole premise of that awareness day is the conversation, the power of a conversation, which obviously want to sort of get into that side of talk therapy then, because
Yeah.
the biggest thing about Are You OK is the power of a conversation and how it
That's
could actually
right.
save a life. So I guess so we can all understand. Can you share what talk therapy actually is, in sort of like in simple terms? So yeah, so we can all
Yeah.
understand. I guess mostly me.
Yeah. Look, talk therapy is basically the aspect where it's actually in the spiel that I tell all my clients in the start. Basically, my role as a professional is to be able to create a safe, non-judgmental, non-biased space for you to talk about whatever it is you'd like to. The therapy aspect is we work on different perspectives. Given all the knowledge that I know, my role comes here to make sure that whatever you're going through, we can sort of work on a page where let's put things in place that make you feel like you've got that control back in your life. Talk therapy gives you the freedom to just explore in conversation what's going on. You literally have the capacity to weave us a story of your life, to a stranger who doesn't necessarily have any opinions or judgments on that. We learn about you as you tell us, And so what that means to me is I actually feel honored when that happens, when a client is able to connect with that, because it's your journey to me, and my role is sort of to sit there and think, okay, where is it that the problems come up for you, and where is it that we can work towards something that's going to work for you.
Yeah.
All of my practice and all of these forms of talk therapy is so client centered. Ultimately, the role is just that, to keep it to focusing on you.
Yeah, wow, brilliant. So I suppose it's one of those things like it's there's almost like a difficulty talking with family at times where you kind of are like friends because you don't want to seem like I don't want to sort of throw out stigmas and things like that, but it can appear sometimes weak, or you're sort of shifting the perceptions of who you are, or like you're thinking that you're shifting the perceptions of who you are and your family and stuff like that, where they may think that everything's all hunky-dory and great. So like what difference does sort of actually having a conversation with, say, like a counsellor or something like that versus family, like what are the benefits, I guess?
Yeah. So, using an example, right? I've come with, like, in the role that I've done, people will definitely have their stigma. So, one of the big ones I often hear clients say is, I don't want to burden someone else. And, fair enough. It's hard enough to sort of sit there and think that you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, and to just sort of to share that with someone who you might know what they're going through, you may not know, but they sort of feel it as heavy. It's not easy to do that. When you're carrying something so heavy, that's hard to go and sort of say, yeah, I want to put that on someone else. But my role is I'm trained in that I can help carry that load. And we can work on slowly taking it off so you don't feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. I am specialized in providing that support. So if my role is that, and we've got all these services available, why not use it?
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose you can look at that because it sort of it transposes across many different industries, I guess, because it's like you need to like it's one of those things where you don't want, like, you may think that you don't want your work to know about these sorts of things or these issues that you're dealing with, which is, again, not a shameless plug, but in terms of EAP, and this is regardless of who you're with, it's all confidential, so you can have that conversation. And if you are burdened by things like you were saying in the prison setting, like, it's very, very difficult. And obviously with shift work and stuff like that, how do you get the opportunity to speak with yourself and that kind of thing, and actually going out there? I think it's like essential for people to, regardless of with your Converge or not, with whatever EAP that you're with, is actually accessing those services to get that support that you need.
Absolutely. And there's that benefit of if you're in person, they at least can sort of spend time with you and get to, like, really think that if this is going to work. Of course, I never go build a relationship, and that's really part of the foundations of talk therapy as well, the rapport building. I never go into something personal unless it is very much to extent of I'm using it for psychoeducation. So we're not allowed technically to even do that, just for being cautious of a transference, counter-transference, dual relationship, all that sort of stuff. We've got to keep that aside. So we never go in with any personal stuff. But to build rapport with someone, it's always just that, let them know you're human as well. So, they will say, I'm having it really rough. Over EAP and telehealth, sometimes it can feel a bit disconnected. So we sort of do have to say, I'm sorry to hear. But if I'm in person, that it's the non-verbal stuff that comes out. The body language, absolutely. So it makes a world of a difference when you just sort of have that space to say, look, I'm sorry you're going through that. You're sharing that. We're connected in that sense as well. So it really makes a bit that nice. It adds a nice layer there. And it's been really good in that sense.
Brilliant. So I suppose, jumping back to talk therapy, why is it so effective?
In the sense of it's a tricky question. Why is it so effective?
Well, I suppose it sort of depends on the person, obviously, because people are going to react or find, some people might decide to do more exercise based or art therapy or anything like that, where they get more out of it than talk therapy. So I guess in terms of, like, as a modality, why is it effective? And what's the value, I guess?
Okay. It just comes down to the ability to say as you please.
So no holds barred kind of situation.
No, I mean, I think that's one thing I always, we do get our client feedback, so I always get the feedback that they have the space to just say. There's also sometimes a person, in talk therapy, you can engage with them to figure out what's going on, what's that. We won't always get it right, that's one thing. But majority of the time, if a person just really says what they actually truly feel, there's a level of
yeah, like a
said
weight's
it.
lifted off.
Yeah, like a release that's come out. It's almost cathartic sometimes, and they're not wrong. When you share the pain, it becomes easier to hold it.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're trained to carry it. We're trained to, manage through our set of feelings with it. In that empathy we carry for you, we are aware of the pain and everything that you're taking on. Not all of it to the extent that you're experiencing, but in the way what you've told us, yeah, we carry it. But we have our strategies. We're trained to also practice self care and manage that. I think it's just the ability sometimes to just let it out. And we can get so wrapped up, right? So just if we think about our day to day, there are so many reasons why probably, I should have shut down last weekend and not done a thing because there's just that much going on. So you can sort of sit there and think, right, there's a lot going on. But if you were to sort of talk to someone and just, really use that ability to engage with someone in conversation, not only does it ease what's going on for you, a different perspective in your situation can help you think of a strategy as well that can get you out. It doesn't have to be a strategy. The art of venting is one, but just the art of venting, sharing, but also just having someone to bounce the ideas off or sort of think, hey, actually, I'm saying it out loud. It may not be as bad as I'm thinking. I may have taken this too far. Or, no, this is really bad. This is a really dark hole. Help me. There's different levels here, but just sharing it with a professional can help you sort of look for a way to either protect yourself for that moment or something you can put in place for the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know, like, when I look back on, my journey with mental health and all that sort of stuff, it was like, like the first obstacle was going to the GP.
Yeah.
And then not actually having an idea of how I actually wanted to sort of like try and overcome my issues, I guess. And then it was like my GP was like, well, do you want to see a psychologist? And in my brain I was always just like, I don't need to see a psychologist. I'm fine. I just have some issues and I just want to sort of talk to you about it. And then it was like, go and see a psychologist. And it was actually, but then when I spoke to them and they learned about me, I learned about them, and I had that connection. And then being able to then say sort of effortlessly and also shamelessly what's going on. And then being able to go like, okay, look,
well, that's it.
You're not the only one. I've seen this in other people, and this is normal. And yeah, look, it's heavy, but here's some coping strategies and here's some things that you can do to get better and stuff like that. And I thought for me, that side of talk therapy was massive. And I suppose it's like, do you sort of see that on a day to day, that when you do start that rapport building and you're able to like listen and let them offload, and then you can offer those extra sort of steps to make each day easier?
That's essentially how a session goes. So it's essentially how it is, Certain clients we do spend a lot more time in the rapport stages. First couple of sessions are that. If they've got 6 or 7, we do come up with a goal at the end, so it'd be over time. But majority of the clients that come through, they really just at that moment are looking for something, a coping strategy. They're looking for some sort of reassurance. They're looking for just something to grasp onto, and that's where we kick in. But essentially, that's how a session goes. And it's literally in that connection. The word you used was connection. That's the key part. And that's the key part. When you do it with someone who will only be there to hear your side of things and your story, it's vital to your healing. Because again, we don't know anything else. Like, we've not spoken to your friends and family. We've not spoken to your workplace. We actually don't know until you tell us. So if you can do that, and the only way you're going to tell us is if you feel comfortable and safe to do so. I oftentimes provide a lot of psychoeducation on that as well, like on the background and what that sort of means to have that connection. Humans, if we follow Maslow's hierarchy, the foundational level in that is safety and security.
Yeah.
So if I can't give you that in a conversation, I cannot expect you're going to sit there and say everything about your life. My
Yeah.
role is to make sure you are at that foundational level of safe and secure, and we build up from there.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's like a really poignant way of looking at it. I think that's very cool.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. So, so obviously you bounce around a lot of different locations.
Oh, so many.
Yeah, you're here, there, and everywhere.
A little bit.
What difference does visiting the location make for someone who's coming to talk to you? So
Visiting
being
them
on site versus
okay.
doing like a telehealth or something like that.
Funnily enough, so I actually had a client explain this. I see a client, I was seeing him face to face, but just because, as you said, I'm bouncing around, and contract requirements, I'm only in that facility supposedly once every 2 months.
Okay.
So he sort of was in a bit of an urgent situation, really needed to get that support. He actually saw me once face to face, and then after about 4 weeks, he was like, yeah, no, I need to talk to the same person, but they have access to EAP. So he came through EAP. The difference in that is oftentimes I see it in his reaction, right? I'm using this one specific client, but I see it in the way he communicates. So if it's face to face, thankfully that workspace has this most gorgeous setup. So they've got couches, they've got a weighted blanket, they've got another regular blanket, tissues, heating, you name it. So they got a whole bunch of things going there, and there's a little kitchen in there too. Anyway, I know.
Sounds very lovely.
Very lovely. It's a great counselling room. Very private too. He is very relaxed. That client, I can see from the way he's seated. So initially, his first session, he was quite well seated like you are, very much kept to himself. But the couch is on that side, so he's very much holding that space. As sessions go by, you do notice, okay, if I'm in conversation, he might be ramping up, but he's also physically leaning back. He's also physically dropping his arms. His shoulders are relaxing. So I know that I'm on the right track. He might be verbally ramping up, but I can see in his body that, okay, this is actually in itself helping.
Yeah.
And the difference with telehealth is, yes, he was ramping up, and I can de-escalate the tones that come through, but do I know if he's really relaxed or not? Don't know. I'm hoping I'm doing the right thing here.
No, of course. So how do you because I want to look on like the both sides of the coin, because obviously there's pros and cons to everything.
Absolutely.
And I also don't want to discount virtual versus all that sort of stuff, because obviously there's so much value in all of it.
Absolutely.
And it's obviously, like we've said, it's not a one size fits all approach. Everyone is just going to get their value out of what's most comfortable for them. So on the other side of the coin then, what is sort of like the benefits, I guess, with doing the virtual side of things versus doing it in person, I guess?
Yeah, so the benefits of virtual, if it's telehealth where there's a video call, we're making that level of eye contact. I can actually see a little bit of your space. I can see what kind of movements are there. Your expressions are really key in that. So if something is triggering you, if a person needs to have a good cry, I can be present for that, because they're allowing that emotional release as well. Yeah. When it's over the phone, actually what I find interesting is there are times I can hear people moving in the background. Okay. It's safe for them. They feel it better to move and talk.
Yes, yeah.
And so you get the flexibility to do that on the other side of the phone. If you need to be running around doing chores, if you need to be taking in some steps, if you need to be doing that level of movement in conversing and it actually helps you to converse, go for it. Yeah. I'm the last person to stop you, because you're going to be able to talk more. Yeah. In your comfort zone.
Definitely. And I suppose as well, just on top of that, is in one of our previous episodes where I interviewed James, and he was talking about side-based conversations. So I feel like there's a little bit of relevance in this, I hope anyway. There's basically, he said, like, having a conversation with someone while doing something side by side, it sort of reduces that sort of angst around opening up and things like that, rather than if I just came to you right now in this setting, it was just me and you, and I went, hey, what's up, what's happening, how's your mental health? It can be a little bit strong. And he sort of said, like, do something that you both enjoy, whether it be fishing or gardening or going for a walk, going for a run or whatever. If you can, when you're out of breath, have a conversation. Yeah. But I suppose, like, from what you've just said there, if you're walking around and doing something, it can also reduce that angst, I guess.
Some people struggle with the concept of eye contact.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to force it on someone. If it's easier to do it via the phone, go for it. And that's why one thing I appreciate about Converge is that, you know, they use the on-site, the client used the on-site when I was there. He was in the office. We have that face-to-face conversations. At the same time, he was calling. There was no video call, but he was calling through EAP. You get access to both.
Yeah, yeah.
So even the capacity to try and see which one is going to work for you is also quite nice, because maybe you don't know until you try.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose it's one of those things where you just got to try anything and everything, and it's just, and you'll find the fit for you.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, brilliant. So, sort of, what are some of the common misconceptions then? Because I want to have a little conversation about the whole side of stigmatization and stuff like that, and maybe myths, I guess, that surrounds talk therapy. So, what would you say are some common misconceptions that people have about talk therapy?
Oh, it's not going to do anything for me. Sorry, that's that's one that comes through. Oh, you know, this is not going to do anything. They'd be the ones that actually talk for more than an hour.
Yeah, wow, because they've got those initial barriers up, I guess, haven't they? Yeah.
Again, their life circumstances has probably had them experience that.
Yes.
I can't even sit there and say that's their mentality. They probably would have tried to do it. You know, they probably would have tried to do it with a friend, and unfortunately that friend has dismissed every single emotion they felt. And over time, they've learned from friends, family members, whoever it is, that, it's not going to help. Like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, and this is where vices such as alcohol, drugs, you know, other things that become maladaptive coping mechanisms do kick in.
Yeah.
So it's where we sort of just like, look, it's really not that bad. Just give it a shot.
Yeah, because you could just do the one session and then it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I suppose, like, again, not trying to make it all about me, but this is how I connect. I guess it's like when we like look at things, it was like I used to go to myself like, oh, like you're kind of weak and pathetic if you try this, or you'll be fine. It's like
absolutely.
a cold. You'll get over it in a week. Just keep pushing on, that kind of thing. But it doesn't go anywhere.
No,
and you don't sort of, if you don't do anything, then it's not going to work. So it's almost like one of those things that you know, when a thing like a stigma or something around, because I suppose they all have some form of stigmatization, any type of therapy, is being able to actually go and have a conversation can really lighten the load on your life and make you feel like, actually, do you know what? Yeah, there is something wrong, and there is something I need to work through. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's another one of my favorite ones is, you know, I'm too old for this, you know, I don't really, I've seen so much.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, doesn't sound like it's going too well though. So, you know, there's so many out there, but it's exactly what you're saying. It's one of those things that as much as we'd like to, I always tell, again, something that comes up a lot is you will have a broken bone, you'll feel a cough, you will, you know, you feel something's off. What do? You run to the GP, get an x-ray, sick note, you've got your process, right?
Yeah.
Why is it that the part about mental health is something that we can just sit aside and let it go?
Yeah.
It's not something that people are proactive about, when in fact you've got psychologists, counsellors, social workers, you've got a team there. Your workplace, most workplaces do have to provide it. So you have these resources available, but it's always something that's just like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. Like, you know, I'll be fine. It'll go.
Yeah.
You know, if you're so ready and proactive and can get that support for your physical health, mental health is something that probably shouldn't be sidelined, because ultimately physical health symptoms do come up with mental health being delayed as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because I suppose it's just something like historically that we're obviously making leaps and bounds now.
Yes,
in
absolutely.
terms of mental health.
Absolutely.
But historically, it was very much like, you know, the English in me is very much like that. Keep calm, carry on.
Yeah.
That kind of cliche, I guess.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like we are making leaps and bounds, but obviously there's still generations that went through that.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of still, you kind of have that generational imprint, I guess, where you're kind of like thinking, okay, like my dad, who grew up in the 70s, didn't really believe in mental health and all that sort of stuff. And then like when say someone else, like their child feels that way, they're going to start thinking that. So I guess when you're delivering like a counselling session and someone presents with saying like, oh, I'm just here because, you know, someone told me to.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably a waste of my time, a waste of your time, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you, like, how do you sort of break down those barriers then?
if they've come to the session, and they sort of, I had this last week again, very recent. Yeah, it's all lined up really well. He sort of just turned around and sort of said, yeah, I've come here because my partner's told me to come here. I just deal with things as they come. I don't really do that, and it's like, okay, well, we have an hour.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you maybe like we're just thinking would be good to talk about then, or is there something that she specifically said or he specifically said that would be worth you exploring? I'm just here to listen. If you don't want to, we can just sit and have a chat about work. And then it just kind of escalated from there.
Yeah, wow.
Things started coming out, and I was like, okay, I see why this person has suggested it'd be good for you to come.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where you sort of, I just tread very lightly.
Yeah.
If a person, and also it's interesting because if they've come, that means not only has what the partner said is, it's nice because I do acknowledge that, like I do actually give them like almost like a commendation, just being like, look, yeah, your partner said it, you still didn't have to come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's probably a small part of you, like hats off to you for actually still showing up.
Yeah, you've overcome a hurdle.
Yeah. Like that's nice enough that you actually do care about, you value that person enough to actually still show up.
Yeah.
And you're here.
Yeah.
So, it really is your space.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I suppose if you had to sort of quantify, I guess, what would you put it down to as like people presenting with that barrier versus at the end of the session where they've actually, they feel a lot better about it basically for coming?
If I had to, I wouldn't be able to put a number, but I can safely say it always is one of those things where if we tread lightly enough and then get into a bit of the depth, they usually always do end up going in that path of, oh, okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can tell so-and-so person, like, I can tell them that I came.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel comfortable now, thanks. Majority of the time it goes that way.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I haven't come across a scenario where it's gone upside down, where they sort of said, oh, this is a big waste of time, but I don't think a person that usually when they're coming on their own, they wouldn't say that. So that's a benefit there. But when I'm walking around within the sites, it's a different response.
Got you.
Yeah.
No, of course. So the reason I asked that is because like with Are You OK Day and whatnot, it's very much around that conversational element, and stigmas can be those barriers to those conversations. And how can someone, I suppose, prepare to have that conversation? So before anything's happened, before you're like, okay, like, well, I suppose you've booked in your session, but you probably feel a lot of anxiety about that first session.
Yeah.
And this is like, regardless if you do an on-site EAP, going to see your psychologist or going to see a counsellor or something like that, how can you sort of mentally prepare to go into that session? Because I suppose you want to go into there and get like as much value as possible out of it for your own mental well-being. And I suppose a lot of people with their anxieties, and if you're having mental health issues and challenges and you haven't actually gone down the root cause yet because you're about to go get the treatment, like how can you prepare to go and have those conversations where it can be extremely real, extremely raw, and very challenging to actually face those demons, I guess?
I would say the anxiety is justified. So go in with hesitation because you're making a connection that you don't know the person. It's okay to be hesitant. We understand that. We understand that, yeah, this is hard. You have to sit there. If you really want the support, you have to sit there and be so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy task. I've been a client myself, and I just sort of sit there and I'm like, okay, this is going deeper. In my head, I'm talking, like out loud, I'm talking. In my head, I'm like, okay, there's something here. Like, this is really hard. This is deep. We get that.
Yeah.
Our role is that. We understand that you are coming into a very vulnerable space, but you have every right to be hesitant.
Yeah.
Because it's knowing that this person's not, we don't go and say anything, but you have to trust the person to be able to share that with you. So if you're hesitant, we have no problem if you come in with dot points. We have no problem if you come in and say, I specifically want to talk about X, Y, and Z. Even if you come in and say, I have forgotten everything I wanted to say, but I'm here. That's also fine.
Yeah.
The best way to prep and to get the maximum of your sessions is, if you not sure where to start, bring everything. So make a list, create a list, do a little bit of a brain dump the night before, because that's the time where majority of the people, including myself, brain is most reactive right when I'm trying to go to bed.
Yeah.
So, you do a brain dump, get it out. There's a pen and paper nearby or the note section on your phone. Let it out. Let's see what happens. Jot a few points down in the morning. Circle, highlight, tick off what's going to work, what you want to talk about, what you want to narrow into. Please ask us questions. That's another thing. So just for your comfort, you can actually ask and say, how does this work?
Yeah.
What can I expect? And I always have a good 5-minute spiel anyway. So oftentimes I feel sorry for the clients because it's like rapid fire. But at the same time, just ask us if there's something that's you're feeling worried about. We have to do our best to make sure you feel okay enough and you feel comfortable enough to be that level of vulnerable.
Yeah, I got you, because I feel like there's probably a lot of people, there's so many different archetypes with it, whereas like some people will come in and they'll just divulge everything. There'll be some people who come in and they're super guarded, or there might be someone in between, or 30-70, or vice versa, that kind of thing. And I feel like the reason I'm asking all of these, I guess, is in terms of the stigmas and the barriers and then the preparation, is like trying to dismantle those archaic beliefs about mental health, and knowing that going to get support, especially things like talk therapy, can actually lead to something where, like, you go to a doctor and you get your antibiotics, and then you go home, you take your antibiotics and you get better. I suppose it's that same formulaic process. You go to your GP, you go and see your psychologist, which is your antibiotics, I guess. And then from there, you start to get better and you start to learn different strategies and things like that. So I think, and especially with the message of Are You Okay, is having a conversation just makes such a difference.
Oh, yeah. Even if it's just for 10 minutes, that's okay. Yeah. We don't turn, I think that's one thing I love about this role as well. We don't turn people away. It's one of those where if I don't carry that level of empathy in my job, then you're not going to feel that connection that you need to be vulnerable.
It's like trust is earned, isn't it?
That's it. And so I know I'm doing my job when they're really, even though they came in with a lot of hesitation, they are there opening up. Most of the time, yes, everyone's got like a whole big spiel. They just come right out, and fair enough. And I get so invested. I sort of just sit there and I'm like, supposed to give you a heads up. We only had 10 minutes, 5 minutes ago, but keep going. Like, this is good. But then oftentimes there are some that are just, they're treading the waters, trying to see how it goes. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Really, that's okay. That's where all my training, everything I've gone through kicks in to sort of think, yeah, okay, this person is struggling a bit because they're not that comfortable yet, or they're hesitant, or they don't want me to know certain details. If I ask the right questions, if I can reassure them, then this is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose it's a process as well, isn't it? Like it's not linear or binary. It's like,
no, yeah,
you go into it and you might go in there super reserved, but then you built this rapport, and then your next session or your third session or your fourth session, you might go in and actually be like, okay, this is what happened to me, and these are all, everything that's going on with me, that, like, because you've built that over time, that it's like, I think what I'm trying to stress is, and I know, like, because I've been there, I went to the first session super guarded, and it took me like 8 sessions, with a psychologist, obviously EAP dependent, but when I saw my psychologist, it was very much, it took about 8 sessions until it actually started to unravel a little bit more. And I think that's what I want to trying to stress is that is okay.
That is perfectly fine. In fact, 8 sessions is great, honestly speaking. It's you basically showed us at that time. That's how we know you're going to be comfortable. And there would have been a tipping point for you. There would have been something that the psychologist has alluded to, said directly, presented to you, but whatever it is, you then said, no, I can go into this now safely. And what your psychologist did was amazing. It wasn't just, let's shove the wall down, crack it right down, and have you running in the opposite direction. It was brick by brick. We sort of take that off, and we sort of just peel back the layer a bit till you feel safe. And then you were like, all right, cool. Now I feel like doing it. If it's 8 sessions, it's 8 sessions. If it's 20, it's 20. But at the same time, you felt comfortable to do so. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to stress, obviously, to our listeners and to everyone viewing, is that you just got to try it, and you just got to throw yourself in the
First
deep
step.
end. Go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's nothing to lose.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it can feel confronting. It depends on who you get on the other side, and if you don't like one way, you can always try someone else or try a different path. So, for example, personally, from my experience, we had a family counselor and an individual psychologist. I had two of those. This was a period 5 years ago. So we had a family loss, and so we did a family support and individualized support. And the individualized support gave it about 3 tries before I was like, okay, this person has actually forgotten me. So I was like, all right, I'll take a step back. In the family one, yes, it was quite confronting to sort of have all of us share our emotions all at once, especially with loss. It was when I found a separate, individual counselor just for myself, who was able to share that, who was providing the psychoeducation around that, safety around grief and loss, around all that sort of thing. When that had happened, that's when I sort of sat there and I was like, okay, now I can go into depth a little bit more. After 2 experiences, gave it a 3rd try, and I felt, okay, you know what? This is what I need.
Yeah.
You may not get it right the first time. You may not get it right the second time, but please don't give up, because there are so many of us out there that would love to be there for you on whatever journey of support you need.
Oh, brilliant. And I think that's a very key point as well that you're sort of saying, is that you may, I think the vast majority of social workers, counsellors, psychologists, psychiatrists, they're all great. Just personality types might clash.
Absolutely.
Or something might be happening at the time, and then it sort of just ends up correlating with that. So you want to sort of get a different perspective or point of view. So it's just keep trying. Don't be knocked back by the first situation, because they might have been, absolutely perfect for someone else, but just wasn't right for you. So keep trying and keep going down the route, and eventually it will all sort of, I guess, work out.
Yeah. And it really just, it comes through questioning, it comes through experience, all that sort of stuff. So when you try, you never know. Yeah,
brilliant. So I've got a couple of rapid fire, I guess, questions. So what do you love most about your work as a counsellor?
Oh, so much. I love that I get to literally, if someone is just going through that hardship, right? I feel it an honor. Honestly, it is quite an honorable thing for me to be sharing that journey with them, to sort of say, hey, we're here for you. So I love that. That's one of my favorite jobs. Also the connections that we make with people. I'm so interested and curious about their lives in their versions and the way they tell things. I honestly love that. So you can be in the hardest phase of your life, but knowing that I can be that person that you can just, that's not related, that doesn't know your story, that you just need to bounce ideas off, go for it. I love that. That's such a fantastic part of my job.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess there's 2 parts to this one.
Yeah.
So obviously, being a podcast, you know, people might be listening to this on driving, or they might be listening to this while they're running or something, or someone might have just cut them off and they've completely missed a point. So I guess just to sort of like wrap up a lot of what we talked about, like, what is one piece of advice, I guess, that you would provide to someone who is reluctant to seek counselling?
Please give it a shot. That's really it. Just you don't have much to lose when you get to talk about your life your way. And if there's something going on, knowing that you can talk to someone without them having anything to do with you, they're just strangers that come through and share the journey with you, and then off you go on your way. Even just by doing that, what are you going to lose?
That's a beautiful point, definitely. And then when someone feels stuck in life, how can talk therapy help them move forward?
Well, that's it, isn't it? Just actually sharing. We can get wrapped up in our heads so easily. You can have 1 voice, you can have 10 voices, you can have so much going on. I think just share it, let it out. Let it out safely, and what ends up happening, you never know, because you might get some strategies you didn't think about. You might get a connection that would be worthwhile. You might get to see someone face to face who is very happy to share that space with you. And you might end up feeling lighter and more secure with yourself. And if you get to live an authentic version of yourself, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for
Thank
coming in
you.
today. I think that honestly, you're such a beautiful, representation of counselling, and
You're
I
gonna make
think
me blush on camera.
no, but I think like the objective of this episode for me was definitely to just sort of talk more about what is talk therapy and how does it actually help. And I think honestly, you would have helped a lot of people who
Oh, thank you.
is probably could have been hesitant, could have been and ahhing about whether or not they should do it, and hopefully, and I pray that a lot of people from this session, or from this recession, so for during this like listening to this episode or watching this episode, is actually able to get a lot of value and realize that they're able to just go and have a conversation and have a chat.
I'd love it.
Yeah, definitely. And in a space where there's no shame, there's no judgment. You can have those conversations with your friends and family, and I know that's super important, but it can also knock you back, or it can feel super uncomfortable, or you may have that conversation and you're like, oh, actually, I didn't get what I wanted out of that. With talk therapy, a lot of the times you can, and I think that's really, really key. So thank you so much for coming on and advocating for talk therapy, and advocating for on-site. And what I'd like to say as well to our viewers and our listeners, if you need support and we're your workplace wellbeing provider, please give us a call, reach out on the Converge app or reach out on the Converge website. We can book online. We've got live chat. If we're in your workplace, in our on-site program that Christine here is spearheading with a lot of other people as well, go and have a conversation with them, and you never know what you might get out of it. And it's also free and confidential. So, but then also to that point as well, regardless of who your EAP is, whether it's us or someone else, just please go and seek that support. Never suffer in silence, and remember that help is always available. Thank you again so much for joining us today, Christine.
My
and thank
pleasure.
you so much to everyone out there for listening and watching. And we'll see you again next month for our 13th episode of Thrive.